Ivy back door, maybe fall off. Sipping codeine cause I gotta kill a cough. Let me sit sideways in the big Benz. Oh, you boys, they my brothers, they my friends.
There's the blitz. Touchdown, Lehman. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Williams got him on the blitz. Lehman on the pick. OU is going to win it again. Peterson's got it. He's got first down and more. High step and touchdown. Adrian Peterson. Baker Mayfield. Kyler Murray. Jalen Hurts. Touchdown.
You're listening to Brandon Drumm,
It's all good, OU fans.
Colin Kennedy,
Oklahoma has the guys once Saturday arrives.
and Parker Thune.
This looks like the year where it's all going to come together for the Sooners.
This is the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast.
Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune, and we are here to talk to you guys about some Oklahoma football, spring ball, pro day, recruiting. Big recruiting weekend coming up, and it starts tomorrow with none other than four-star, newly appointed top 247 defensive back out of Miami, Florida, Dijon Johnson. He will be in town on the 3rd and the 4th. I just got done watching The Batman. I'm not going to give anything away. It was pretty awesome. I like this premiere thing with my kids. Parker, how you doing, man?
Things are good, Brandon. Gearing up, obviously, as we all are, for this massive recruiting weekend, the biggest of the Brent Venables era to date, upcoming. And I think we're sitting at 28 confirmed visitors, somewhere in that neighborhood at the moment, over on our OU Insider VIP board.
We're down two. But I guarantee you there's going to be people that we haven't like here's the thing. Like I was talking to a source tonight, like Peter Wood's thing is still kind of up in the air. He could be there, he couldn't be there type deal. Like that's something that I'm going to work on finding out tomorrow a little bit more, like really solidify some things a little bit more on that front and see if we can't find out if Peter Woods is going to be there. Not to derail the subject at all and what we're just talking about, but I did talk to somebody again today that said that Oklahoma is going after Jaden Daniels. Like when I said that the other day on a live and they were just talking or they have contacted, oh no, I think it's gotten a little bit further than that. I don't know if
you're dropping bombs right off the bat here, Brandon.
I mean, I look, before I forget, I'm going to say it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far it's gotten. Like, I don't know if a visit's going to happen, but I do know that there's been communication, and I guess the interest was reciprocated from both sides a little bit. How much it's gone down the road is, a whole nother thing. But, when I said, there was communication and I didn't want to like say one way or the other if it was confirmed or not, because it was just kind of word of mouth. Oh, nope. It's real. It's real. And I don't know. Look, it still doesn't make sense to me. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to be a quarterback at OU. And I say that, and I'll probably end up being wrong because I said it, and the kid will probably show up in Norman eventually. But do you see it being a fit? Like I know I totally just went off the cuff here with that question, but do you see that being a fit like at all? Like for me, it just doesn't make sense. They have to have another quarterback. They have to. But does it make sense? Because that dude only has like 1 year left, right?
He has
2
years. He's got 2 years. And so, no, for me, where I stand with it all is obviously you're going to need another quarterback for the sake of depth. But the old adage is You have
Big
two
12, big Pac-12
quarterbacks.
guys?
You have none. And so I don't know if I'm Brent Venables and I'm Jeff Lebby. I don't know if I'm bringing Jaden Daniels into a situation where we're selling him on the opportunity to compete for a starting role, because that's kind of disingenuous on multiple fronts. One, Daniels is no doubt going to come to Oklahoma with the expectation that he's going to start immediately, and he's not going to sit a year, because for where he's at in his career, it just doesn't make sense for him.
He's trying to get to the NFL, right?
Moreover, from Dillon Gabriel's perspective, Jeff Lebby already came out and said Dillon Gabriel's your starting quarterback heading into 2022. So to me, I don't understand, and I don't know if I will have the capacity to understand exactly why Oklahoma has even established contact with Jaden Daniels, because it just doesn't seem like a situation where, if you're planning on making a serious run at him, my first question is why, and then secondly, if you end up getting him, my follow-up question is, okay, what do you do now?
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's where we're at right now with this whole situation, or at least in my mind, I feel like that's where we're at, as far as like you and I are at mentally, is, do you make a run? Because we don't know if they're making a run, if he's going to visit or not, but like we can now say communication has been made, and at least some form of interest on both fronts has been established, but has it stopped? Will OU continue to pursue that route? And if the visit does happen, does that rub the quarterback that spent all winter and spring trying to win the team over, in Dillon Gabriel? You came out as the offensive coordinator and said, hey, that's my guy. There's no quarterback competition. We're rolling with Dillon Gabriel because he understands the rhetoric. He understands he's already thrown for 8,000 yards in his career. He's won a bunch of ball games. Why even try to go that route at this point? Number three, like you said, if you do go that route and it somehow works in your favor in some miraculous, otherworldly deal, I don't know where you go from there, because, well, I guess neither one of them can transfer without having to sit a year out. So you kind of in a win-win there if you're Oklahoma. I guess there's that. But how happy are those quarterbacks going to be? And is the locker room going to be split when because you got two alphas right there. I mean, both those guys have won a lot of damn ball games, man.
Somebody's going to end up pissed off.
Yeah. This is worse than Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams situation.
Yep.
When you get to that front, because these are two bad dudes that have won a lot of games, man, and they've won some big time ball games. I mean, I watched Jaden Daniels beat, I believe, number 2 or 3 team in the country in Oregon a couple of years ago.
As a freshman,
if I remember correct, as a freshman. So I look, I come out and I say all this dropping bombs or whatever. It's not really a bomb. Communication, not really a bomb, because I also will come. The caveat in that is, I would actually, if you need another quarterback and you're Oklahoma, I would actually question you if you didn't reach out too. I think there's that side of it, like because there's not much option out there right now to fill that need for a third quarterback. That's honestly not a walk on or.
Honestly, though, if you're talking about bringing in another quarterback, based on the fact that Oklahoma has been in communication with Jaden Daniels, I wouldn't even leave it at they're pursuing the wrong quarterback. Honestly, you can get more specific than that. They might be pursuing the wrong Daniels, because to me, JT Daniels is a guy that's in the transfer portal right now.
Fair.
Had the 5-star designation coming out of high school, went to USC, got his job taken, went to Georgia, got his job taken. To me, if you're Brent Venables in Oklahoma, you can tell JT Daniels, hey, guess what? At this point in your career, you should know better than anybody that nothing is getting handed to you. So come to OU. We'll let you compete for the job. If you win it, it's yours. If not, you're no worse off than you have been throughout the first 4 years of your college career, because you couldn't crack it
It's
at
a really
USC
good point.
and you couldn't crack it at Georgia.
But we don't know if that's something we don't know if the Oklahoma's even reached out there, because they could have. We just don't know it. I don't know that he fits Levy's system because he's not the most athletic human being in the world.
No.
I think that's where if you're Oklahoma, Jaden Daniels makes complete sense. Makes 100 complete sense. If honestly, if he was in the portal at the same time as Dillon Gabriel, I mean, which one would you have gone after first?
Probably Gabriel. It's
really
close. It's close, but Gabriel. It's because of the familiarity.
Okay. That's a good point. But as far as like having the war marks and the battle tested as far as like Power 5 goes, we all know the Pac-12 is not exactly great, and the American can probably stack up on a top heavy basis, as far as like the best teams in the past couple of years would probably be equal to the top teams in the Pac-12, sans Oregon or Utah on any given night, or Washington every now and then too. And people are going to say, well, what about USC? Man, USC's been trash for like the last 10 years. Shut up. Okay. Just shut up. I don't want to hear it right now. I don't even want to go down that road. That's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down at all. But just as far as being battle tested, Jaden Daniels might be more battle tested as far as going up against upper echelon on, week in and week out, because Pac-12 is deeper than the American, no matter how you look at it. Sure. The top schools are fairly equal outside of a few. And I mean, you might throw Arizona State as one of those top schools that's probably better than a lot of teams in the American because they're really talented. The other thing the other issue I have with the Jaden Daniels situation is the Arizona State NCAA stuff. Like, how much is that a part of his potential baggage? Like, is it potentially part of his baggage? Like, I don't know any of the, I don't know any of that, but I mean, I guess there's a possibility he could. It
doesn't have to do with him.
Okay. I mean, so that's why I was asking the question. I was like, why? Because we don't know the inner workings of all that. So, look.
Yeah, I'll say this. I know a good bit, and most, if not all of it, has to do with illegal recruiting practices by a few particular staffers that have since been discharged.
Mm-hmm. So I guess at the end of the day, we both kind of agree. That's great that you talked on the phone a couple times with the quarterback. Probably shouldn't go that route. Yeah. And I think that's probably how it's going to end, or has ended. Like, I don't know if it's ended or not. I don't know we probably shouldn't even have said anything, but I did. It's out there. I know. I'm like, it is what it is at this point. But I guess we'll start the podcast outside of that as, look, there's a big weekend coming up this weekend. Oklahoma has hit the ground running on the recruiting trail. Now, obviously, Oklahoma not getting to host Jacoby Johnson this weekend. He's going to Houston with his family. His brothers are playing in this John Lucas camp type deal. I don't know. I don't understand. I didn't understand the whole thing, and he was going to be here by himself. So he's like, I'm just going to go with them, and I'm going to return to Oklahoma on the 26th, because I spent a good hour and a half, 2 hours with him today, really talking. For those that don't know, Jacoby literally lives probably 2 minutes from me. And so I see quite a bit of Jacoby. I talk to Jacoby quite a bit. I'm around the program quite a bit because of my kids. So, I mean, it's one of those deals where easy access, if you will. And we're probably going to know more than everybody else when it comes to the inner workings of Mustang. And if you're any fan of OK Preps football, you know that Mustang Oklahoma is about to put out a horde of talent over the next decade. Parker, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen the young cats coming up 7th, 8th, 9th.
Oh, yes, grade. Sir.
even down to like the 5th and 6th grade years. I mean, there's some dudes coming through this town. That said, I would put a lot on Jacoby Johnson being an Oklahoma Sooner at some point in time. And I would bet by July he's a Sooner. Just throwing that out there. So it's him not being there sucks for Oklahoma because he could be used as like a recruiting asset, or whatever. He wants to take visits to Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Stanford, Texas A&M, those type of schools before he makes a decision. But if he's not a Sooner at the end of the day, I will be shocked. I know you feel the same way. You have the crystal ball in for him. The other guy that's not going to be there that we thought was going to be there that was another potential commit was Dillon Edwards, which was the weirdest damn thing ever.
That one got bizarre real quick.
Did it not? That was weird. Like the whole thing's weird. Like the dude has been telling everybody he's going down there to commit to Oklahoma, and he's going to Arkansas now.
Yeah,
I don't understand how that happened.
I don't know. I don't know if I can put into words how shocking that was, Brandon, because I was in the middle of doing radio. I was about one segment from getting off air for the day. And I looked down and I have Dillon Edwards tweet notifications on for obvious reasons. And I look down and I see the tweet that says, it says Dillon Edwards tweeted, "I will be at the University of Arkansas this weekend." And when I tell you I did a double and a triple take at that thing, I was like, you're legit playing with me right now.
Yeah. I didn't see the tweet until you said something to me because I was with Jacoby when you sent it to me. And I was walking out of the facility and I looked down and I was like, what am I reading right now? And then you text me, you said, well, I talked to somebody and I'm working on it, but it sounds like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like at no point have we heard any of this. And neither had anybody around him. It
makes no sense to anyone at this point.
No.
It makes no sense to anyone.
And when we say it makes no sense to anyone, we're talking about people close to Dillon Edwards. They're all flabbergasted going, "Whoa, yeah, I have no idea what's going on." I almost wonder if he's going to change his mind on Friday and he ends up in Norman still. And he's just throwing people off so that they don't know he's in Norman. Maybe? I went deep state on it. I was total mental gymnastics there, but
no. There are a lot of theories here. So I'll just dive into a couple of them.
Okay.
One theory is that Dillon Edwards is very, very close with Avery Johnson, who's a 4-star quarterback out of Mays, Kansas. Yep. And Avery Johnson is, from what I'm told, QB1 on Arkansas's board. So naturally, Sam Pittman and that Arkansas staff realize that recruiting and landing a guy like Dillon Edwards is going to help their chances with Avery Johnson a lot. So they might have made a heavy push and maybe even leveraged whatever connections they have with Avery Johnson to get Dillon Edwards on campus. That's one theory. The second theory is maybe Dillon Edwards really liked what he saw at Oklahoma last month and then got the chance to think it over during the dead period and realized, you know what? I need to be more thorough in evaluating my options. I need to take a series of visits. I need to see all the campuses of all these schools that are recruiting me, at least the ones that I ostensibly favor, and go from there. That's a definite possibility as well. The third possibility is Dillon Edwards takes a look at who's visiting this weekend, and he sees Richard Young's name on the list, and his immediate reaction is, oh, shoot, that's a big old fish right there. And maybe I want to wait to see how that plays out until I commit to going somewhere like the University of Oklahoma, where if you bring in a guy like Richard Young, all of a sudden, maybe I'm taking a back seat. And I don't think Dillon Edwards would. I really don't. But I can see how that would be the line of thinking. So again, At this point in time, everybody is mystified by this. I was told not even Dillon Edwards' head coach knew that he was going to Arkansas until that tweet hit social media. So no one knows any more than anybody else about why that happened, how it happened, and what's going to become of it. But those are at least some plausible theories as to why Dillon Edwards reneged on his decision to come to Norman this weekend and is going to be up in Fayetteville now instead.
So you're saying my theory that he's just trying to throw everybody off and he's going to show up to Norman still and commit isn't plausible?
No, I don't think
I was totally joking, but yeah. I guess anything, we're talking recruiting, so anything is really possible. We've seen some of the damnedest things ever.
Yes, we have. We do every year. Never fails.
Yeah. People don't even understand. Like a lot of stuff like we can't even say publicly.
If people knew half of what we did.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like you guys would you think you guys want to pull your hair out? Try covering it. Like there's times we get anxiety knowing what we have to type and report to you all. And because we can't tell the whole scope and the full story on it. So it's hard for sometimes even the insider people to understand what's going on behind the scenes. And to this day, like there's a lot of times we can't really publicly, even in like a tell-all thing, we can't go 100% tell all what's going on. It's just not how it works. You know what would be interesting is if Trey Wisner showed up again. I wouldn't throw that. I would.
That was another thought I had. And that's one that is not at all like, I'm not even talking like not out of the realm of possibility. You could argue that's one of the more likely theories as to what might be going down here.
Right. And he's supposed to wait till October, but who's to say he just doesn't go, you know what? Screw it. I know where I'm going. Everybody knows where I'm going.
Or
I might as well get it over with.
Or I know where I'm going. I should probably lock my spot down before Richard Young or Justice Haynes, guys like that, get a chance to see campus.
That's true because both of them are coming to Oklahoma in the next month. So, and that's just a tip of the iceberg of running backs that are going to be showing up around Norman over the next few months. So, yeah, I guess if you want to be smart about it, that would be wise, I guess. Look, and I think you and I are saying that because we know, or at least have a good feel for what's about to happen. And there's going to be, look, that was even the case when I was in Georgia and Florida, where I had people saying, look, man, because I told you, I went in there totally pessimistic. Like, I'm just down here because you offered these guys.
Yeah.
And I just want to kind of get to know the coaches and stuff because OU's going to recruit. I had no expectations for OU to be like in it with so many guys like Dijon Johnson. Like that would Dijon Johnson didn't cross my mind one dang time when I was flying down from Oklahoma to Miami. Not once. And then I just kind of talked to him. I was like, look, how's the OU's offering you? What's in it? He's like, oh, man, I like him a lot. I'm probably going to visit there here in the next, few months. And I wasn't thinking 10 days later, like I told you off air. I was like, I didn't think that was going to happen. Like, what is going on? So, I mean, the way OU's recruiting the Southeast, I had so many reporters and sources from across the state of Florida and Georgia say, look, man, you recruit what you know. And that staff at Oklahoma, they know Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Texas. That's what they know. And a little bit of the Northeast. And you're starting to see the Northeast thing with Musa Kane and
Jaden
Bonsu showing up this weekend as well. And obviously Picotti showing up on April 1st or 2nd or whatever. So there's some teeth to this whole deal. Oklahoma is really, really starting to make some moves there. I think a guy to watch. Look, I think we both think Cade Green is a guy to watch because you can talk all this mess like, oh, I want to wait, I want to do this, that, or the other. When you get down there on campus and they're already your leader, who's to say you just don't? So you turn to your parents and go, Mom, Dad, you know, this is where my heart was at before we got here. It's where my heart is now. Let's kind of get it out of the way. Like, he's a guy for me, and I know you in particular, you especially, are kind of like, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, because here's what I know.
He's a 4-star, by the way, for people that know.
Yeah, exactly. I can promise you that won't happen publicly. It could very well happen silently. It won't happen publicly because for quite a while now, Caden Green and his family have had the agreement with his coach at Lee Summit North High School, former OU running back Jamar Mosey, that they will play out his senior season and wait to commit until afterward, whether that is in November on his birthday or on early signing day, because that way there's no circus, right? Or it's less of a circus, as if everybody's or as it would be if everybody's showing up to Lee Summit North games and saying, oh, there's the OU commit right there. There's the Michigan commit, wherever Baylor commit, wherever Caden Green ends up. So that's the agreement.
Why would they, I have to ask this. Why would you not want that? Like, that would be less of a distraction if he's already committed.
And I kind of feel that way too. I just, that's what it is. From my understanding is that they've worked it out where that they're going to wait until after his senior season gets over, and it'll either be on his birthday or it'll be on early signing day.
Can I throw out a theory why I think why they're doing that? He can silently commit all he wants, but if he's not publicly committed, more college coaches are going to show up to those games, and more of Mosey's kids are going to get recruited because of that. They're going to get eyes on him. And I think
that's a very compelling theory as well.
Yeah. That's the first big guy that he's had, like, that's eligible, right now to go. Why not use that to springboard other kids?
Yeah. Well, and he had, I know he had a kid go to Missouri last year, an offensive lineman that was a high 3-star. I know he had a kid go to Northern Iowa that was a 3-star, decommitted from Kansas and decided to go the FCS route. But Caden Green is by far the biggest prospect Lee Summit North has had in recent memory. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And so there is some leverage to be found there. And you're already seeing that leverage come into play, because two guys that are accompanying Caden Green on his visit this weekend are two guys that don't have an offer from OU yet. Williams Nwaneri, the 4-star offensive lineman, 2024 offensive lineman. He's not ranked just yet. And then 2025 wide receiver Isaiah Mosey, Jamar's son, whom I firmly believe is going to be a 5-star before it's all said and done.
And both of them will have offers before they walk off Norman's campus this weekend.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
I would probably bet on it, actually. Now, the Mosey part, I'm not sure because of the rule that OU under Venables, they're going there. There's a lot of the Clemson route that they're using with the recruiting, like for instance, like I know of a kid that has asked the OU head coach, if I commit, can I silently commit and take a few visits? I'm not going to go anywhere. I promise, coach, I'm not going to decommit. This is where my heart's at. And he said, no, that's not what we do. If you're committed to us, you're going to publicly commit and you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to visit anyplace else. And that's an OU rule. They let the 2022 kids do it because of the coaching change. And that was smart on Venables' part. That was smart to allow it there. But 2023, nuh-uh. That's why you don't see Jackson Arnold go anywhere, or Ashton Kozar. And Ashton Kozar's out there tweeting about, I'm not doing 7-on-7 or anything like that. Like, he's doing 7-on-7, but if they're going to like go on trips to schools and stuff like that, he's not taking a trip with the 7-on-7 squad because he's not going to be caught on campus at another school. Like, that's that they're going to Clemson. And I think that's great because you're going to get these high-end kids and they're never going to waver, because the only wavering they're going to do is they're going to decommit. You won't see them taking other visits and us have to answer a question. Why are they taking visits? That type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a rule that they're putting down. I like it. I think that's the way to go.
And I love it because, that shows that the kid is as committed as the institution. in that recruiting relationship, right? If you're truly committed, you know for a fact that you want to go to Oklahoma. Why do you need to take other visits? And I understand if you want to take your 5 officials and all that, and you want to see all these places that you've never seen before, then fine. But at that point, you are not actually committed, because there's a chance that you go to one of those campuses and your mind changes and you decide that's a better fit. When you're willing to shut it down, when you're willing to say, okay, I'm done, no more visits, this is home, this is the place for me, that's 100% commitment right there. And circling back to Williams Nwaneri and Isaiah Mosey, I think OU might want to see a little bit more of Williams next fall before they offer. And I don't think it's out of the question he picks up the OU offer this weekend, but he's also only played about half, 2/3 of a season of varsity ball. So that makes me wonder if maybe they'll want to see a little bit more of him before they drop the offer. Isaiah Mosey is a guy that I feel like you can't let him leave campus without the offer, just because he's already got Texas A&M. He's already got Oregon, Minnesota, Wisconsin, I believe. So he's got big time programs after him. And you already have a natural leg up in that he grew up a Sooner fan. His dad played football at the University of Oklahoma. And there's a little bit of a dream school vibe that Oklahoma has for Isaiah Mosey. And you don't want to squander that type of advantage by dragging your heels where you don't need to. And you don't need to with a guy like him, because you know exactly what he's going to be. He's going to be one of the top 50 players in the nation.
Yeah. And speaking of commitment and not allowing visits and all that stuff, there's a player that is committed to a Power 5 Big 12 school, the Big 12 champs, actually. And that is 3-star defensive back out of San Antonio Brennan High School, Tyler Turner. Now, he visited Oklahoma in January. He's visiting Oklahoma again this weekend. Now, you always follow the visits, right? Always follow the visits. That's what I was told. Rusty Manziel tells that to me whenever I see him or I've talked to him. He said, follow the visits. Follow the visits. So I'm taking his advice on this. I'm going to follow the visits. When was the last time Tyler Turner was in Baylor, Waco?
Offhand, I couldn't tell you. I'm guessing it was before January.
He has to drive through Waco to get to Norman. Now, is he going to stop on the way up and take a visit? Or does he take a visit on the way back home? I think those are things like, is his mind, because Oklahoma offered. I found that interesting that the week he's visiting, Oklahoma offered. He visited without an offer. He's coming again, and now he's offered, right? I don't know that Oklahoma throws an offer out there like that unless they're pretty positive that they're about to flip this.
Yep.
That's my gut. I haven't put a crystal ball in for him. And I know, like looking at his offers, and I'm going through here. Oh, man. He has Baylor, Arkansas, Grambling State, Houston, OU, Rice, SMU, TCU, Texas, Texas Tech, Utah, UTSA. So he's very regional for the most part.
Yeah.
Outside of Utah. No, that's it. Outside of Utah. Everything else is pretty regional.
Yeah. Well, and 3 really stand out there. OU, Texas, and Baylor. And
yeah, those are the big powers right there. Yeah.
And you can throw Utah in that conversation
yeah.
as well, because Utah has certainly, they've developed some pretty good defensive backs over the years. And that's something that no doubt Morgan Scalley and his staff out there in Salt Lake City are going to use if they choose to actively recruit Tyler Turner. Obviously, we don't know exactly the dynamic there, but no doubt it is intriguing and it is compelling to note that Tyler Turner's visiting Oklahoma for the second time in 6 weeks. That means something.
He's also in the top 450, which is normally the 4-star range ish. And he's ranked 399 overall in the country. So that tells me at some point in time, he's going to bump up to that 4th-star range if he continues to trend in that particular range as far as the rankings when they continue to give out the 4 and 5 stars. So
offhand, I want to say there were 376 blue chip guys in the 2022 class. So
okay, so he's like right on the border.
That's right about the cutoff. So you're getting really, really close to 4-star territory as it is.
Okay. Yeah. So for some odd reason, I think it was 2004. No, sorry, it's 2019 or 20. I can't remember that there was like 400 4 stars or something. It was one of those classes. I can't remember. But yeah, look, he's right there. He's really close. He's the guy that I think if you watch his film, he screams 4-star. I mean, him and Crandall, Texas, Samuel Omosigo. Is that Omosigo?
Omosigo? Is that what we decided? Until we know better.
Yeah. Parker and I had this discussion the other day on how to pronounce his name. We're like, is it Omosigo? Is it Omosigo? Like, I think we came up with Omosigo was how we decided we're gonna. He's at 471, and he's visiting Oklahoma this weekend with 22 offers: Duke, Hawaii, Houston, Kansas State, La Tech. But when you start getting down to the M's and N's and stuff like that, the big names start to pop up. You got Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, USC, Washington, Wisconsin. Like, there's big name schools that have offered Samuel Omosigo. He's a 6'1", 195-pound freak of nature. I'm going to tell you all that much. Like, if you looked at him and you walked by him, you would say, damn, I bet he plays football. Like, instantly you can tell he's a football player just by his physique and how he's built his frame. It's an impressive looking kid. And I think Oklahoma's in a pretty decent spot there. He hit me up when I was down in Texas and actually asked me to come down. So he's like, can you stop by my school? That usually tells me a lot. So, and gave me the coach's number. I'm going to do it here in the next few weeks. I'm going to try to make that jaunt down to South DFW metro area. Edric Hill's another player that is interesting because I can't remember if he's offered or not by Oklahoma.
He has not been offered.
He's not.
Yet.
That's right.
So his teammate PJ Adebawore does have the offer. Edric Hill does
right.
Not.
And he's a 4-star. He's the number 283 player in the country, the number 39 overall defensive lineman.
And he's got Alabama.
Yeah. Well, and 20 other offers on top of Alabama. I mean, LSU, Tennessee, USC, Oregon, Wisconsin, Miami, Ohio, not Maryland, Kentucky. Like, these teams play some football and play some pretty good defense. Iowa State. Usually when Iowa State, if a kid is accompanied by, in no particular order, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Baylor, and like one of those other big Power 5 schools like an LSU and Alabama and stuff like that, or Michigan, I tend to usually think they're pretty good players because those schools that I name on the front end of that statement, the Oklahoma State, the Iowa States, the Baylors of the world. Yeah. They evaluate better than anybody else because they're not going to get those big 5-star, 4-star guys all the time. And they know it. They know who they are. And so they're going to go get 25 high-end 3-star guys that are going to fit their scheme. And half of them are going to end up in the NFL or all conference guys.
And if you get lucky along the way, one of those guys that you jump on early ends up making a big rise up the recruiting rankings. That can be a blessing and a curse at times, right? Because you can have a situation like you did last cycle with R. Mason Thomas, who all of a sudden starts getting the way bigger offers, the LSUs, the Miamis, the Oklahomas, and ends up flipping. But
yeah,
for every one of those, you also get a guy like Sean Davian Bradley in the 2023 class, whom Iowa State has been after for a long, long time, ever since he was unranked. He is now the highest ranked 4-star prospect in the 24/7 Sports Composite. He's one spot away from getting his 5th star. And Iowa State's in it for that dude because they've shown him love for so long.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, and we're naming these cats off for you guys, so you know just how loaded this weekend is, because it's ridiculous. And if y'all think March 5th is impressive, wait till March 26th. That's supposed to be a 2024 day, folks. And the 2023 dudes they're bringing in on March 25th and really starting like the 23rd and 24th that weekend is unbelievable. And they're not done. March 5th, I mean, like we said earlier, like Peter Woods could be showing up for all we know. Like, that's a guy that there's a lot of people in Norman think, or at least assumed, was going to be visiting Oklahoma. Comes out, Steve Wiltfong, our national recruiting director for 247 Sports, comes out and says, hey, Peter Woods is telling me he's going to Alabama on March 5th. I will tell y'all, people in Norman, and we're recording this on Tuesday, right? This stuff came out on like Saturday night, Sunday. And I spoke to some sources about it and they're shocked. They're still trying to figure out if he's going to be there or not. Like, it's not really confirmed one way or the other. It was confirmed he was going to be in Norman, and it was quietly happening. So that's something we're going to follow and monitor, but that March 5th visit date could get bigger and bigger. Oh, another guy that dropped off is Anton Jackson. I actually spoke to him because he did tweet out that he's going to Florida Florida this weekend instead. He just, I guess a family thing came up. He said he's rescheduling either for the 6th, the 26th or the April 2nd. Like, that's where he's looking at right now for Oklahoma's next visit. Jordan Raynaud is one of the top players in the country. He's 71st overall composite. He's the number 7 overall defensive lineman in the country. He has a composite rating of 97. He's really 96.7, but 97 round up. Out of Tyler Legacy, 6'4", 250 pound. Quiet kid, doesn't really say a whole lot. Almost impossible to interview. Like, he's somebody I'm going to have to literally drive in my car next week and go down and do a face-to-face interview, because that's the only way you can get a hold of that kid. He's tough. He is tough. So I'll do that for you, OU Insider fans. I will do that for you guys. No problem. But on top of that, he has offers from Alabama, Auburn, Baylor, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Miami, Michigan, South Carolina, Texas, Texas A&M, Jackson State, UCF, you name it. He's got it. He holds exactly 26 offers, Oklahoma included. And if I was a betting man right now, I don't know where that kid's going to go, but I will bet that Oklahoma will be in on it to the very end. Just a gut feeling. What say you, Parker Thune?
I mean, look, Oklahoma's in a position where if you're expanding this on a broader scale in the 2023 class, I think you're going to see Oklahoma in it to the bitter end with the vast majority of the guys that they're recruiting. And obviously, you're not going to sign 60 guys, right? But you might crack the top 5 and you might get an official visit from 50 of those guys. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And so as OU starts to get an idea of who's plausibly at play for them in the 2023 cycle, just given the momentum that Brent Venables and his staff have right now, and given what they've already been able to accomplish in terms of the relationships they've built, I don't think it's asinine to suggest that you're going to see Oklahoma take a big step up, not just in terms of who they're able to sign, but who they're able to make a serious push for. And in the age of the transfer portal, finishing second is not the worst thing in the world anymore.
No.
And so to me, it's not just about who you get, It's about who you can make a legit push for, who you can mount a legit challenge to another blue blood institution for, because I think what you're going to be able to see Oklahoma do is have that type of effect on kids who aren't locally sourced, right? It won't just be Texas kids and Missouri kids and Louisiana kids that they end up making the top 4 or 5 for. It might be the case where, hey, 10 or 15 of those guys from the state of Georgia, the state of Alabama, the state of Florida end up taking official visits to Oklahoma and giving the Sooners very serious consideration. Again, we are in an era where, because of the advent of the transfer portal, being the runner-up means more than it ever has, because it means if a guy gets disgruntled with his situation, where's the first place he's going to look? He's going to look at that short list of schools that just missed out on his commitment, that he liked but didn't like quite enough to push them over the top, over the school that he ultimately ended up committing to. So there's something to be said for being in the final group as well. And again, it's not just about getting the signature on signing day. It's about being there up until the end, because that's going to be more significant than it ever has before in the years to come.
No doubt. And I'm over here as we're going through the list, I'm noticing, guys, that when we put our list out, I want people to understand this. Like, our list on OU Insider, we've reported all these guys since January for the most part. A lot of the guys in early February, mid-February, we've been reporting these visits for quite some time. I know we're the first to report at least probably a good 2/3 of these guys. I mean, it's it's funny. Like, so PJ Adebawore, we have listed as a 3-star. I'm changing it to 4-star right now and having to switch up and relink him and do all that type of stuff, because and the same has got to be done with Dijon Johnson. When the list was made, they were 3 stars. The new rankings comes out, and here they are in the top 250.
Whoa, he did pick up the 4th. I didn't even catch that.
Yep.
How about that?
So,
okay.
Yeah, it is. And that's a guy, I guess. How about you talk about him? You know him very well. You know his situation. Is he a guy that Oklahoma could, I guess, be on commit watch this weekend? I think that's what fans want to know more than anything else, is guys that are on commit watch. So when I bring up a person's name, I'm going to ask you, if you know more about him than I do, is he on commit watch this week?
I don't know whether I would go as far as to say he's on commit watch, but I will say he's one of the guys that's worth keeping an eye on in that capacity. I'm not expecting he's going to commit. I don't think that is imminent. But what I do think is, just knowing PJ, having gotten the chance to interact with him and knowing his family dynamic, he is a kid who wants to play somewhere where his family is going to be able to see him. And he told me he's not going to make his decision solely based on that. He's not going to commit to a Kansas State or a Missouri over a Michigan or a Georgia just based on proximity. But if there is a school that can offer him a great academic experience, a prestigious football program, a coaching staff that cares about him, as well as a reasonable proximity to his home in Kansas City, I would think that school's arguably the favorite to land PJ Adebawore. And right now, the school that fits that bill is Oklahoma. And so I think a lot will depend, to me, on whether or not Oklahoma chooses to offer his teammate Edric Hill, because those two are close. And I'm not suggesting that they're a package deal, but I think if Edric Hill shows up to campus this weekend and gets the offer, and PJ has the opportunity to feel the love from the coaching staff, not just for him, but for the guy that he lines up in the trenches alongside, that could go a long way. And I tell you what, a guy that has made a very strong impression on both Edric Hill and PJ Deborah is one Miguel Chavis. And Brandon, I feel like we're going to be saying that guy's name a lot in the years to come, because I don't know if a single positional coach has had more of an impact on the Sooners recruiting efforts so immediately as Miguel Chavis, because we talked about the 3 signees that he got on signing day in the class of 2022. Now he's already making some pretty nifty moves with these 2023 guys that are in his positional classification. So Deborah is a guy that, again, while I'm not necessarily expecting him to commit, I also don't think at all that it is out of the realm of possibility that he could surprise some people by showing up to campus on Saturday and deciding, yep, this is where I want to play.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I don't know his situation the way you do, but from my understanding is that he's very high on the board. I think that's something to watch as we go through this cycle, is how quickly Oklahoma fills up and things start to really narrow down numbers wise, because I think you're going to see a lot of kids wait after what happened this past season with the coaching changes across just college football in general. There's going to be a lot of skepticism, a lot of untrusting from the college kids, but you're still going to get that grouping of kids they don't like the recruiting process, like a Jacoby Johnson, not really into the whole recruiting process so much. A By Job doesn't really like the recruiting process. He does it, but By Job's a kid that turns his phone off, won't even get on social media. During football season, he had his trainer change his password so he couldn't get on Twitter, and deleted his Instagram because he wanted no distractions, because, and I quote, "I'm a 4th star now. I don't want to be a bust. And I have to prove that night in and night out." That's out of the kid's mouth. And I have to tell you, that's quite refreshing, to be honest with you, in this day and age. The look at me. He's more, I got to do this for my team. Right now, he's not talking, By Job's not talking to anybody, hardly at all. No coaches, nothing. He texted me last night talking about basketball. But if it's recruiting, the dude isn't going to talk about it. Didn't tell me this, but I was told by a few people around him, he's pretty much shut everybody out, because this is the last time he's going to play basketball with his team, because he's going to graduate early from Community Christian in Norman, and he's going to go to whatever school. So he's not playing basketball next year. He's focused. He's all football all the time, starting in March from this point on, the rest of his life. And the kid basically is shut recruiting down because of it. He's focused on state. That's what do you think? Before we get back in the list real quick, that's kind of unheard of these days. Like the kids,
it's uncommon.
Yeah, it's he's an uncommon kid. And I know what you're thinking, because we've used uncommon twice right now. What type of kids are uncommon, Brandon?
No, I was actually going to say
what program uses that?
Well, exactly. Like, that's part of Oklahoma's new branding. The new vision of their program is, hey, we're uncommon men. And the sole acronym is serving our uncommon legacy. And so, yeah, I mean, if the shoe fits.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Hey, when you get a chance, go add Kaden McDonald to the list of visitors, please.
He's already on the list.
I'm looking at it and he's not on here.
Oh, really? Did I miss him?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just heads up before I forget. There you go. Y'all heard the talk, the business talk on the podcast. There you go. Because I want to talk about Cade McDonald, why that even came up. Went out there to Georgia this past week, as everybody knows. That is either on OU Insider or heard a podcast recently, or was on one of our YouTube live or Instagram lives, whatever one we're doing. The amount of connections that kid has to OU is absurd. Absurd. He likes the recruiting game. So I don't know if he's on what I would say commit watch. He's getting recruited by Georgia. He's getting recruited by Alabama. Just about everybody in the country wants Kaden McDonald. And if you see him in person, you can see why. I mean, he's a physical specimen for an interior defensive lineman. Good looking kid. Brother played at Iowa before transferring down to Troy. And if you are an Oklahoma fan and you know the new coaching staff, you know that Brandon Hall, the new safeties coach, was the defensive coordinator and interim head coach at Troy. And Brandon Hall coached one of the best defenses in college football while he's at Troy for a couple of years. Parents loved him. Mom loves Brandon Hall. Caden loves Brandon Hall, even though that's not his position coach. But he coached his brother. He got to know him. Brandon started recruiting. Coach Hall started recruiting Caden while he was at Troy. And obviously Caden was a young guy at North Gwinnett. Then you have the fact that Ted Roof is from North Gwinnett. You have the fact that Drew Hill is from that area, the director of player personnel for Oklahoma. Obviously, Ted Roof is the defensive coordinator, linebacker coach for the University, co-defensive coordinator, linebacker coach for the University of Oklahoma. You also have the fact that Kaden McDonald's mom is from Western Arkansas. His grandma still lives there. They come to Oklahoma quite a bit to, as he put it, hit up those casinos all the time and win some money. He said, my granny loves to go play the slots in Oklahoma, is what he says. So every weekend she's playing the slots at the Choctaw Casino. So there's that. And then the biggest connection of them all. Oh, no, there's two big connections, two huge connections. Trey Morrison, Oklahoma's new transfer defensive back. His best friend is Kaden McDaniel's older brother. So Kaden McDaniel grew up with Trey Morrison. When they come into town on the 4th, he's going to spend the whole weekend with Trey Morrison. He said, I'm going to hang out. I'm going to go out with Trey Morrison. I'm probably not going to have him. He goes, he told his mom, while I'm standing right there, well, I'm not going to have much to do with you, are there? I'm going hanging out with the boys because I can't wait to hang out with Trey. Like, he's so excited they get to see this friend that he grew up with that is super close with him. They talk on the phone all the time. And then the other close friend that he has that is OU related is the star, almost creeping ever so close, three spots away from being a 5-star. And I'm talking about 2023 quarterback Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold and Caden grew up together. Jackson Arnold is originally from North Gwinnett. They played together Little League. As a matter of fact, Kaden McDaniel was on his offensive line in the league and was his blocker. And Jackson Arnold was a quarterback. And as they said to me, Jackson Arnold was a bad man when he was a little kid out there playing quarterback. They said he could do everything. He'd throw it, he could run it, he does everything. Kind of like he does now in large school football in the state of Texas. Pretty good player. Jackson Arnold, we haven't talked about that yet. That's something I want to talk about here in a minute. But like I said, I don't know that Kaden McDaniel is on, per se, commit watch, but I will be shocked if he doesn't take an official visit after coming up here on unofficial. I'll be shocked if it's not set up before they leave. Because I think June 3rd is going to be these kids that are coming in on the 26th and the 5th of March. I think when they leave, they will have an April or June official visit set up before it's all said and done. Do you think that? Do you agree with that, Parker?
Yes, I do. By the way, by the way, somewhat unrelated, but wanted to bring it up as well. Just look through the new 24/7 Sports composite rankings with the release of the new set of internal rankings today. Right now there are 358 blue chip players. You know who's sitting just off of blue chip territory at 364? You can have two guesses.
Eric McCarty.
No, but close.
Is this 2024, 23?
23.
Is it Oklahoma related?
It's Oklahoma.
A kid in Oklahoma.
Yep. Come on, Brandon. I know you know this.
Micah.
No, it's Cole
Harrison?
Adams.
Oh, Cole. Dude, I don't know why Cole didn't come to my head like that. Dang. Yeah, I was wondering if he got his 4th star or not.
He's getting very close.
He is literally
a 1,000th of a percentage point away from star number 4.
Dude, that sucks. They got to give it to him. Just give it to him.
Well, the cutoff, I guess, is 89.01 rather than just 89. So he's at exactly 89 right now, which you would figure that would mean he gets the 4th star, but it's not until you get to 89.01 that you get star number 4. So it'll happen. It'll happen. It's a when, not if thing.
Kind of like the OU offer we thought would already have happened by March 1st. And that did not happen.
Yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms.
I don't even want to talk about it again because everybody kind of knows our feeling on like what is going on. We don't get it. But hey, he's visiting Alabama this weekend. Alabama sure likes the hell out of him.
Yeah, Jalen Hale's visiting Alabama this weekend too.
God.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Alabama's got David Stone maybe visiting Alabama this weekend too. Oh. Speaking of, God, I keep forgetting to call him. I was supposed to call him 2 nights in a row, and I forgot. He's like, "When are you going to call me?" Oh, why don't you call me? So, like, dang it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that Alabama trip's gonna happen with him. He says maybe. I'm almost positive Oklahoma's doing all they can to combat that and trying to have that not take place, just because he's so close to committing to Oklahoma, and he doesn't hide the fact that he's close to committing to Oklahoma. I actually talked to somebody that is inside at the IMG while I was in Georgia. Obviously I talked to him in Florida, but I got to sit there and literally talk because they help. I'm trying to word this right. They help with the camp settings, Under Armour stuff. So I'm talking to this person. And I said, I've never seen Oklahoma offer something because I just kind of wanted to get their feeling on OU. And they said, no, man, Brent Venables this, Brent Venables that, his staff this, staff that. We love him. And I said, yeah, well, who do you think is going to go to Oklahoma? Or who do you think Oklahoma has the best chance to get out of the IMG guys? And without hesitation, David Stone.
Yeah.
Stacey
it's kind
Gage.
of an open secret down there.
Like literally David Stone, Stacey Gage. I said, that it? No, not at all. That's not it at all. As a matter of fact, the guy goes, I think Jordan Johnson-Rubel has a pretty good shot to go to Oklahoma. He goes, I think Jaden Hardy does too. He goes, I think there's probably maybe 4, 5, 6 guys that Oklahoma might end up with when it's all said and done. I said, really, that many? He goes, especially in that 2024 class, man, they got some guys that love them in that class. I said, yeah, I know I cover Oklahoma. You don't have to tell that to me. I always try to make that clear. Like, I don't care, just be honest with me. I'd rather you be honest and upfront because I don't care. And he goes, no, for real. Like, I think those 4 in particular, and then he named a couple other guys off that he thinks Oklahoma has a really good shot with. Obviously Kanijah Harris, a guy that Oklahoma has an even shot with. Even throughout Rick's first name, I can't remember off the top of my head. Desmond Ricks.
He rooms with
I want to
Jaden
say
Hardy.
that's correct. I wanted to say Desmond Umeozulu, but he's from he's out in Maryland, in the DMV area. So totally different guy, but he's related to the Umeozulus from Allen, the cousins.
I think so. It's same thing. Whenever I see someone else in the public eye whose last name is Thune, I'm like, I'm related to them somehow. There aren't very many of us.
Well, same with Drumm. I mean, there's how often do you see that name? Never.
You're the only one I know.
I know, right? Be like Smith. You probably know about 50 of those. Colton Vasek, by the way, is visiting this weekend. 4-star defensive end edge rusher out of Austin Westlake. I talked to him for a good bit. I'm going to go down and see him here in a few weeks. Colton Vasek is an interesting character, really good kid. Just a kind of salt of the earth type of kid, very outgoing, doesn't hide his feelings, towards the school, has a very strong relationship with Miguel Chavis. The guy says that, Vasek says, hey, I got visits set up to Oklahoma on the 5th. I'm going to Clemson on the 12th, and I got Texas A&M on the 26th. I was kind of shocked to not see Texas in any of that. And he's also, I believe, a Texas legacy. So he's a Texas X legacy. So I at the end of the day, I think he ends up at Texas one way or the other. I think that's inevitable.
It's kind of got that flavor to it, doesn't it?
It does. But at the same time, the fact that Colton's taking the time to make it out. So I think if you get a kid on campus, I say this all the time, anything can happen. Because the second you get a kid on campus and you get face-to-face, things change. It's not just over the phone. It's not 100 or 500 or 1,000 miles apart and you're talking to somebody through a piece of equipment. You're face-to-face. It's personable. There's an organic feeling to all of it. And Venables in particular, man, that's like his territory. That's where he reigns supreme, is on the phone. And I speaking of, I was talking to a source today. He said, you know what, man, I'll tell you this about the new staff at Oklahoma. They know how to work those phones, damn it. like the guy goes, they're good. They're always on the phone. They're always working the phone. They're always working. He said, it's different. It's just way different. There were a few guys on that old OU staff that would work the phones, and they were usually the top recruiters. There was a lot of lazy dudes, though, too, on that staff. And whether people want to believe it or not, Riley picked up a lot of that slack from those that did not want to work hard on the recruiting trail. He did. By making it his mission to go get the kids. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's fact. Another thing they don't want to hear is USC has offered Jacoby Johnson, and he did not tweet it out for the very fact that he did not want to get kind of screwed over by people on Twitter. He's not interested in USC very much, but that's why he didn't tweet it out. And for some other reason, I have a feeling there's more of that going on. Something tells me like Cole Adams probably has a USC offer. Micah Tease probably has a USC offer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if Job has a USC offer.
Yeah. that would make sense.
Just don't tweet it out. You offer them and tell them, don't tweet it out. Nobody has to know. It's our little secret. Until they visit. Then that poor kid becomes a pariah in their own state.
I'm gonna set the over under on Oklahoma kids visiting USC
at 0
in the class of 2023 at 0.5.
You gonna take the under?
I'll take the under.
Me too. What's your thoughts on Darian Gouliet?
Yeah, so I got the chance to talk to.
Just got his 4th star, by the way.
Yeah, he did. And you look at the tape; he's a pretty good dude on the football field. He can
edge or linebacker, in your opinion?
You know, it's interesting because I talked to him last week, I believe, and what he brought up to me was the fact that Notre Dame, which is one of the schools that's recruiting him heavily, was recruiting him to their rover position, which is essentially kind of like a hybrid safety linebacker, roving safety who can move down and become a box linebacker type of player. So I box safety almost. Mm-hmm. And so Notre Dame is recruiting him as a secondary piece. You know who his primary point of contact has been at Oklahoma? Jay Valai. And so I don't know what to make of Darian Gouliet. I'm not I imagine Oklahoma wants him at linebacker. That would make the most sense, but it's pretty evident that OU and Notre Dame and most of the other staffs that are recruiting him, including Baylor, Texas A&M, they see him as a guy who is versatile enough to play multiple positions on defense because he's big enough to be a traditional linebacker. And he's also fast enough to be a plus size safety. And so, same exact type of fit almost as a 4-star linebacker in the class of 2022, Devin Jackson, that Oklahoma was recruiting for a while. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame had the same vision for him, that rover position. He ended up at Oregon, but it's those types of players, the guys with the size to play linebacker and the speed to play safety, that almost get stuck in the twilight zone. And that gives you a lot of flexibility as you recruit them too, because you don't have to pigeonhole them into a single position on your defense. You can bring a guy like Darian Gouliet in, and maybe you don't know exactly what he becomes, but you know he's big, he can move, he can run, and he's going to be an impact player for your defense at wherever ultimately fits him best to line up.
Yeah, look, the other thing about the Oklahoma staff and how the recruiting is that they're not sold on, look, just because a kid plays cornerback, that doesn't mean the cornerback coach is going to be recruiting them all the time, or that may not even be the lead guy. They recruit as a team, as a whole. So there's probably 4 or 5 guys on every kid. And you see that in particular, a prime example. Let's do David Hicks, prime example. Allen, Texas, or Peyton Bowen is another prime example.
Both of those men are what you would classify as large fish.
They are large fish, but they also are a prime example of what Oklahoma's doing with each and every recruit. You're going to have, obviously, the position coach is probably going to talk to them, every now and then they're going to do their thing. But if it's that person's region and they're the ones with the inside scoop on that, or have the connection to that school, or know somebody that knows somebody type of deal, they're going to take lead on the kid. Now, as it goes on, it gets phased out. So Jay Valai being with Darian Gouliet as the lead guy, kind of phase it out to where you get to, because he weighs 220 already. So if you can get it phased out to where he ends up being, I guess, recruited by Chavis, but you want to establish that initial connection with the person that knows that region, knows that area, knows that section that you're recruiting the best. That way you give yourself the best chance. That person, that coach introduces you to Chavis, for example, and then Chavis starts to build his own little relationship, and then Belai kind of phases out and goes to the back burner to where he's not having to make that conversation all the time. He'll do it once or twice a week instead of every day type of deal. And I heard that's what Oklahoma's doing. They're doing that team recruiting where if somebody doesn't have the time, Oklahoma reaches out with another coach and says, hey, this is Todd Bates. I know you play defensive back, but I grew up in that area and I wanted to reach out and let you know that I'm somebody you can talk to. I understand what you're going through. I understand that whole area. And I'm just an extra branch for you to reach out to at the University of Oklahoma. And I think you see that a lot at the big schools like Alabama and Georgia. They do that same type of recruiting. Clemson, the programs that have won, that's how they recruit. You're going to have your main guy, but you're going to have 2 or 3 other dudes coming after you at all times. And now that Oklahoma has such a wide range of analysts and recruiting guys and assistant coach to the wide receiver kind of type of dudes at every position, that is where you start to really, really hone in and become that program that is in more contact with you than any other place. And you can do that because you have the numbers to do it coaching wise. It's something Oklahoma couldn't do for years. They were behind the 8-ball in that by a long shot. I think that's probably enough on the junior day. Everybody gets it. It's huge junior day. Richard Young, 5-star running backs coming in. Don't hold your breath on that, but if he has a good time, an official visit isn't out of the question either. So, and that's where, if that does happen, that's where the game starts to be changed a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out. He's going to allow me to hit him up after the visit. I think Steve Wiltfong's doing the same. So we should have some good content from that all weekend. Parker, myself, Steve Wiltfong are going to have you covered front to back, head to toe. Doesn't matter. We're going to have you covered better than anybody else because we've got a lot of stuff ready for you guys. And you're going to really like it when it comes to our coverage of the junior day. Another topic I think this week is the NFL Combine. I don't think I know. It starts on Thursday. It started yesterday, but, you know, all the interviews and whatnot is what's really going on. What we all want to see is them do the one-on-ones. We want to see them do all the stuff of the combine stuff, you know, the 40s, the bench press, the verticals, the 10-5, 10 shuttles, all that type of crap. Who has the best chance to up their game and up their stock from the University of Oklahoma starting on Thursday?
Nick Bonito. It's Nick Bonito. The answer is, in my eyes, Nick Bonito. And I say that with the knowledge that a guy like Mike Woods, for instance, just based on kind of the unquantified variable that he is in the eyes of a lot of NFL scouts, does have the opportunity to make a really strong impression. But I don't think anybody is going to be tossing Mike Woods' name around until we get to day 3, at least. With Nick Bonito, that's a guy that initially, just based on his size or lack thereof, wasn't being touted as anything more than maybe a 3rd-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've been told, from everything I'm hearing on Nick Bonito, that's a guy that's poised to run a very impressive 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. If he puts up a good number on the bench press and he shows that he's more than just a speed guy, he's got strength, and depending on how the measurables shake out, I think Nick Bonito is a guy that can play himself into 1st-round consideration. And I think it far more likely that Bonito is probably an early to mid 2nd-round guy. But I will say this: if he has an above average combine, not even an excellent combine, but an above average combine, I think Nick Bonito's off the board within the first 50 picks, just based off what I know about that situation and how he is seen in NFL draft circles.
Yeah, I'm going to say Brian Asamoah, because if he goes off and runs a 4.5 after being a linebacker MVP at the Senior Bowl, it's going to be hard for anybody. at 6'1" or 6 foot, 230 pounds to keep him from being like a late second, early third round pick. I think he has that type of talk. There is a lot of people that feel Oklahoma has 4 guys that could go in the first 4 rounds. There's even some that think if Perrin Winfrey goes out there and he runs a 4.8, he's going to go mid to late first round. And that is shocking because, I mean, his output during the game, the season, obviously wasn't at that level, but that probably wasn't his fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's more on, I guess, Grinch. I know it's on Grinch. So I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking that Winfrey could go late first?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all.
If he runs a 4.8, like he said he's going to, I bet he runs a 5 flat. But if he does run what he says he's going to, that'll be interesting.
And I'll take it a step further. I think Oklahoma has 4 guys that can go in the first 3 rounds. I think they have 4 guys that could be off the board by the end of day 2 in Isaiah Thomas, Asamoah, Perrion Winfrey, and Nick Benito.
And man, Isaiah's a tweener, though.
Well, I understand that. Yeah, and that's another guy that, depending on how he looks at the combine, can raise his stock significantly. So to me, I think, man, we're about to see, if that does happen, if you have 4 or even 3 guys that come off the board by the end of day 2, there is going to be a whole new wave of vitriol for Alex Grinch, because fact that he couldn't piece together a top flight defense at the University of Oklahoma with those guys plus Delarian Turner-Yell in the fold and all playing their final season of college ball, presumably at their peak. Yeah, fans are not going to be happy. And I know hindsight is 20/20 and all of that. And I know that most everybody should be past the whole ordeal by now, but it's been upwards of 3 months since the former staff or pieces of the former staff left for USC. And OU fans will still find whatever excuse they can to pick a bone with Lincoln Riley or Alex Grinch or Roy Manning or what have you. And so if Winfrey and Thomas and Benito and Brian Asamoah all get the draft stock that we expect them to receive, then, man, Alex Grinch is not going to be a popular man in Norman, Oklahoma over that weekend.
Oh, man. I agree with you. I think there's going to be at least 3 that are going to go in the first 3 rounds. I think Isaiah Thomas, if he goes and throws up a bunch on the bench press, if he goes, because that means his strength is going to be able to be kind of a for lack of better words, strength for him. His strength is going to be his strength because of his size. I think if you can show that you can throw up the 225, say he does it 25 times, that's going to go a long way for him, because obviously he is known as a tweener. He's an undersized guy. He doesn't really have a spot at all. Like if I was going to sit here and say, oh, you're going to play this, and this position, I probably couldn't pinpoint that at all. I really couldn't. I don't know. I don't know exactly where he fits. I think he's going to have to be he's going to be a scheme guy. I think he's a 3-4, 4-eye, 5 or 4-eye guy, 5-eye or 5-tech type of guy. Because I don't know that he is a 7-tech, because he just doesn't have that size. And I guess that's probably the opposite way, to be honest. If he weighs 260, 265, I guess he could be a 4-man front defensive end. I guess he could be a 7-tech. I don't know. I'm still that's just it. Like me sitting here second guessing myself and my statement tells you exactly how much of a tweener he really is.
And I have a lot of faith that Isaiah Thomas is going to be able to fit into whatever scheme he ends up landing in, because it wasn't that long ago he was playing defensive tackle for Oklahoma. He was playing inside. And so he's already demonstrated positional versatility. And I understand that the physical demands of playing inside in the NFL are night and day different from the physical demands of playing inside at the collegiate level. But Isaiah Thomas, to me, is also a guy that is just, I know it's the most surface level cliche observation there is, but he's really good at the game of football. And I know the knock may be his weight, and maybe a lot of NFL front offices see him as a scheme guy, but you look at what he did this past season. It's kind of the same thing I try and tell people with Nick Bonito. Look, forget the fit, forget the size, forget the stature. Just look at how he's performed on the football field in the role that was designated for him at the University of Oklahoma. That's going to translate to the NFL. It will. And
100%.
It might not translate immediately. I think you're seeing that right now with Ronnie Perkins in New England, right? Where he fell into a situation where he, much like Isaiah Thomas and Nick Bonito, was a bit of a tweener. And it was clear right off the bat that he was going to need a little while to develop. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I don't think you'll see either of those guys, Bonito or Thomas, slide too far down the draft board just because of the concerns about them being a tweener, because I think what they've put on tape will override a lot of those apprehensions.
100%. I think you said it earlier. Just the way the fans are going to perceive Grinch, I think, after this is going to be in a negative light. When at the end of the day, you kind of also got to give him credit because he helped build and help set the stage for Venables to come in and bring that defense to another level because of how him and his staff recruited and built up the roster on the defensive side of the ball over the last few years. So it's kind of, twofold. He didn't do what he should have with the talent he brought in, but he did set up Venables and didn't leave the cupboard empty at all for them to come in and say, you know what? Roster's not that bad around here. Let's go grab 2 or 3 guys here, 2, 3 guys there. I think we can put a pretty solid team out there that can win the Big 12 and maybe compete for a playoff spot. And I think that's the mindset for Brent Venables and company going forward. And, losing Isaiah Thomas, losing Pierre Winfrey, Nick Bonito, Brian Osamoah, Delarian Turner-Yell, Pat Fields, it sucks for you. Like, it sucks. Those are hard dudes to replace. But I think Oklahoma can replace them. I really do. I think this year we're going to see a lot of dudes step up. And it starts in the spring. And from what we heard, spring ball is going to start on the 22nd. How do you like that segue?
Dynamite.
Pretty good, right? Yeah, we got notice spring ball 22nd of March, which I like because we get to get through spring break and not do the stupid 3 practices or whatever. Then there's that big lull in between practices, and then they start back up like a week later after spring break, and then it's balls to the wall to the scrimmage. It's going to be balls to the wall from practice 1 to practice 15 for them going down the stretch for Oklahoma in the spring, because literally to the day the day after the month is up, 30 days. So 31 days after they start spring ball, they have the scrimmage. That means every other day they practice. It is, or they go 3 practices, take 4 days off, 3 practices, take 4 days off, 3 practices, take 4 days off, or however they want to do it. Or take 5 practices one week, 5 practices one week, the other week, and then space the last few out, or however they want to do it to get those 15 in. They get to clump them together more and really build, I think, set the culture up quicker doing that. Would you agree? Because you're not going to have that in between time. You're going to get them on. There's going to be weeks that you get them 4 days out of 5.
Man, I miss spring break. Being an adult sucks.
Doesn't it?
But no, to your point, I think whatever way they ultimately end up splicing it up, I don't think it matters a whole heck of a lot, because you trust that Brent Venables has the right vision for how he wants the spring to play out. And this is a crucial juncture for his football team right there. This is the transitional period. And I understand that.
That's my point.
The transitional period felt like December, January, and a lot of folks' eyes. No, this is the transitional period, because for the very first time, these guys are getting to hit the field and get an actual feel for what a Brent Venables defense is like, what a Jeff Lebby offense is like. And so, yeah, I don't know how it all shakes out schedule-wise. What I do know is that this is a crucial month ahead for Oklahoma football, because I think you're going to find out really quick, and we'll be able to get a sense really quick of who's got a leg up. Because when you have an adjustment period like this, where guys are learning a new defensive scheme, guys are learning a new offensive scheme, just naturally, Brandon, some players are going to be a lot quicker to take to the new waters than some of their peers. And that's why I look at a guy like Justin Broyles, for instance. And Justin Broyles is a player that a whole lot of fans, a whole lot of members on our OU Insider VIP board don't think very highly of. I think Justin Broyles is poised for a big year in 2022. And I think that starts this spring, because with the experience and the cerebral acumen that he brings to the table, I think he's going to have a much easier time transitioning into a Brent Venables defense than some of his peers. So it's a guy like that I think has the opportunity to take big strides throughout the spring. And he's not the only guy in that conversation. I'm sure over the next few weeks, we'll break down this roster cover to cover and talk about every single player and what their ceiling is immediately and in the long term in Venables' defense and in Lebby's offense. But that to me is a case study. That's the type of player that comes to mind when I think about the guys that are going to be worth honing in on and really digging deep and try to see how they progress throughout spring ball. Because if a guy like Justin Broyles can make those strides effectively and not only experience a smooth transition for himself, but help his teammates along the way, then that really gets you excited about how this team could look when they take the field in the fall for the opener against UTEP on September 3rd.
Look, I think last podcast I said something about Justin Broyles being a leader, everybody really thinking very highly of him and all that type of stuff. And I continue to hear that. And I know, like you said, OU fans are like, oh my God, Justin Broyles, not this again. You and I think of him completely different, because he's not the same dude that was getting beat by all pro wide receivers during the Peach Bowl in the first round of the playoffs. Like, he's not that guy anymore. He's a confident safety nickel cover defensive back that really has the pulse of the team, and the players follow him. I think when he speaks, they listen. And I think that's huge to have somebody like that, because it sets the tone so quickly for Brent Venables and company when they come in, because you've got a guy that people are going to listen to. So look, I think there is a lot to really dive into with spring ball. And as we get closer to spring ball, as you said, we're going to really dissect the positions. We're going to dissect what we expect out of each and every player. So this type of talk has a long ways to go. I think before we get to that point, though, I think the respect card that Oklahoma is not getting on a national level, and this goes even on the recruiting trail, as much as you have people saying, oh man, they're going to get this, they're going to get that down the Southeast, Oklahoma's going to get their fair share of guys. You have some that won't even acknowledge Oklahoma, with like a Derek LeBlanc, who's going to have spent 9 days in Norman, Oklahoma by the end of March. From the last week of January to the last week of March, he will spend 9 of those days in Norman. But hey, Oh yeah, it's Florida and Miami. Those are the teams. Florida and Miami. Oklahoma is just
I heard
a
Ohio
distant
State,
third.
Brandon. I heard Ohio
Oh my
State.
God. No, Ohio State's out of it pretty much, but it's just wild, like the lack of respect Oklahoma gets down there on the recruiting trail. Like when you say I'm down here to see this, they're like, oh, they're not going to do that. And I'm like, bullshit. Like I wouldn't waste my time coming down there. I'm sorry for the language, but I wouldn't waste my time coming down there if Oklahoma didn't have a chance to land that kid. Like, don't tell me Oklahoma's a distant third for Derek LeBlanc that is coming in on March 24th and leaving the evening of the 28th. Do the math on that. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. That's 5 days. He already spent 4 days last time he was in Norman. That adds up to 9.
If my math is correct, 5 plus 4 does equal 9.
It's 9. That's almost 2 weeks, folks, when you on a calendar, as far as like, that's almost two weeks of weekdays, the 5-day period between the weekends that the kid isn't. Like if you were going to fill it out on a calendar, he would almost fill up Monday through Friday in a 2-week period. That is crazy to think about, being from Osceola High School in Florida. I follow the trips. I follow the visits, man. I'm not saying he's going to Oklahoma, but to sit there and say that it's like a foregone conclusion, I think that's laughable at best at this point. And I would probably sit here and tell you that I don't. What player from Florida and Georgia do you think Oklahoma has the best chance to get off the top of your head? Obviously, Florida. Derek LeBlanc is up there.
Yeah, Are we staying 2023 here? Are we talking strictly 2023? Because if we're saying if we're
David
limiting,
Stone is I mean that's he's Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's
he's
kind
Oklahoma.
of the cheat code. But
yeah,
if we're saying 2023, I would probably
can't
go.
say Stacey Gage either.
Okay, yeah. But if
He's
we're talking
Oklahoma
2023, I'd probably go Peyton Kirkland. Probably.
He's up there, yeah. I mean, Oklahoma and Alabama are he says are two top, but he's visiting Florida State and Florida this weekend. I think that's going to change some things up. We'll see. He did tell me this. He texted me while I was in, like I said, went to premiere of the Batman with my family tonight. This is on a Tuesday, so is today Tuesday or Wednesday? It's Wednesday. So, oh my God, I'm so confused. It's Wednesday night. So this is on a Wednesday night. This is the premiere in Oklahoma City. There was only two showings, and you kind of had to. I knew people. So, anyways, long story short, got in there, went to one of the showings, and I'm sitting there, and I look down, and Peyton Kirkland's texting me. He's like, "Hey man, what's up? You know, blah blah blah. I'm here watching film, just trying to tighten some things up on my footwork and opponents. And, just taking notes. What you love to hear from a kid." But he tells me, I'm going to Florida State, Florida, all that stuff. Then he says, "I'll be honest. I got to get up to Oklahoma before I take my official on June 3rd. Okay. When would you like to do that? Well, I'm looking at this, and this date. So it was like late March. He's kind of wanting to come up with Derek LeBlanc. So we'll see if that happens. It very well could. Like he could be one of the additions the last week of March. That's not out of the realm of possibility. So I think I agree with you on that. I think he is a guy up there. I think Dijon Johnson obviously is a guy to watch. I would say Aiden Mizell, wide receiver out of Boone High School, is a guy to watch. Who just got his 4th star, by the way, on 247. Jumped in the top 250 kids in the country on 247. I don't know. That's probably off the top of my head. I think those are the guys that Oklahoma has the best shot with. Then you get the IMG guys that Oklahoma really has a shot with 2024 class. So, Georgia, who's the best shot? Who's the best shot off the top of your head from the state of Georgia
in 2023?
Yeah, it's easy. This one's easy.
Um,
Easy.
I know it's easy, but it's almost 1 a.m. and my brain isn't functioning.
I know. Like my eyes are tired too, bro.
Kaden McDonald.
There you go. Same here. No explanation needed. Those are it right there. Okay. Tomorrow we get the assistants. Is on a Thursday. We get to talk to the assistants for the first time. Anything that you would think? Is there anything you're looking forward to hearing from or hear them talk about?
I think more than anything else, I'm interested to see Miguel Chavis's personality in person, because it's what everybody talks about when they talk about Miguel Chavis. Is he's just got the most gregarious, hilarious personality you'll ever come across, and it's part of the reason why he's been so effective as a recruiter. So really intrigued to see what kind of person Miguel Chavis is, because obviously we haven't gotten the chance to interact with him in person to this point. So I also don't think we've gotten the chance to talk to Joe John Finley since he joined staff. And I could be wrong, but
We have like 2 or 3 times.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Because he got him. I asked him what being a coach now at Oklahoma, having kids, what it means for him being a coach, and like what was his fondest memory, being a coach's kid. And he got teary-eyed talking about it, got really emotional. So I don't know why. I remember it. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if that happened, I'm spacing on it. So Joe John Finley is a guy that one way or another we haven't heard a lot from since he joined the staff. So those two, Chavis and Finley, probably the two I'm most eager to hear from. But obviously you get the buffet line, because it's everybody save for Venables, Ted Roof, and Jeff Levy. All the other 8 assistants are talking. Valai, Bates, Hall, Cale Gundy, Joe John Finley, Bill Beedenbow, DeMarco, and who am I leaving out there?
You named
Chavis. There you go.
Well, because we talked about Chavis. Yeah. I agree with you. I think the 3 guys I'm looking forward to hear from. 4, actually. I want to hear Valai, just his experience at Alabama, Texas, and Oklahoma. Just kind of his overall vibe there between all 3 schools. Brandon Hall being a guy that coached under Venables at Oklahoma as a student assistant, GA, all that, was like his right-hand man coming up through the ranks, and then bam, now he's back coaching Oklahoma. I think Miguel Chavis with the personality, and then Todd Bates, I want to hear and just kind of get a feel for who he is as a person, as a recruiter, because he's just known as this larger than life epic recruiter, and we haven't got to see that yet. So I want to see it. Finally, before we close this thing out, basketball, 2 in a row. They've won 2 in a row, man. NCAA tournament, here they come.
It's their first winning streak in 2 months, by the way.
That is not an NCAA tournament formula.
I mean, hey, you get to the tournament, all you need is to win, 6 in a row, and you're hoisting the trophy. So the reality for Oklahoma, though, is that they need to stack 2 more wins on top of these 2 wins, because they're 16 of 14 right now.
And who are they playing?
They've got Kansas State on the road this weekend. They haven't won in Bramlage Coliseum since 2012, so that's a challenge in and of itself. And then if you win that game, you're matched up with the 2 seed in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. So that's also a tough draw. That could be Baylor, could be Kansas, could be Texas Tech. Regardless, that's a win that Oklahoma is going to have to scratch and fight and claw for, and probably have a lucky bounce or 2 along the way. Nonetheless, to me, that is the Razors' edge with regard to this team's tournament hopes. If you beat Kansas State, look, if you lose to Kansas State, you're out. Let's call it like it is. You're not making the tournament if you lose to Kansas State. Assuming they beat Kansas State, they have got to win a game in the Big 12 tournament, because 17 wins is not good enough. I think 18 wins is. If you beat Kansas State for win number 17 and you win your first round game in the Big 12 tournament for win number 18, if you stack another one on top of that, great. If not, if you lose your next game and you're 18-15, to me, particularly in the Big 12, that's good enough to get you in the field of 68.
Well, especially if you just beat the number 2 seed.
Yeah, you have to have 2 wins here. These next 2 games have got to be wins. Otherwise, you're going to the NIT.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. They're going to the NIT.
Okay. Well,
do you foresee them beating the number 2 seed in the Big 12?
I mean, I'm holding out hope, but I'm not optimistic.
Okay. Well, you hold out hope and I'll go ahead and be realistic.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the basketball right now. For real, though, I want to thank you all for listening to this podcast. I know it's just really late for us right now, and we're both super tired. When you watch this video, I'm sure you're going to see like we're both just kind of like trying to keep our eyes open, and just is very hard to do right now. It's almost 1:00 in the morning. But on the 3rd of March, literally right now, as we speak, OU Insider just kicked off a 50% off sale March 3rd through the 6th. So the next 4 days, so 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Yeah. So Monday, the 7th, March 3rd through the 7th, 50% off. So for $52, you will get OU Insider for 1 year, which means you're going to get all the other 247 sports sites, which means you're going to get all the access to all of our national guys, which means you're going to get access to Parker and I's recruiting tidbits each and every day. You're going to get access to all the team notes that we drop. You're going to get access to the basketball stuff and the recruiting there. You're going to get access to the softball stuff and all that stuff there. You're going to get access to football, spring, recruiting, the coaches, the pressers, team notes, all of that stuff. We're going to give it to you. You're going to get the season, the 2022 season. You're going to get National Signing Day. You're going to get all the visits, the junior days. You're going to get the spring visits. You're going to get the spring game. You're going to get the summer visits. You're going to get the champion barbecue. You're going to get all of that leading up to the season and more. If you sign up right now for 1 year, $52 will get you 1 year of OUinsider.com. It's worth it. Thousands and literally we're as large as we've ever been. And it's very busy on our site. So we can't thank you guys enough. You OU fans have made this an amazing experience for Parker and I. And we do it for you, and we do it because you guys have allowed us to do it by signing up and being such great fans, the best in the country. That's going to do it. Oh, one more. You get $1 for the first month, $9.95 afterwards if you want to sign up month to month and just kind of give us a trial before you sign up full time. But that's going to do it for this rendition of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drumm. For Parker Thune, you guys have a blessed night.